talk then about the Conservative manifesto.
Yeah.
50,000 more nurses are being promised.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a look at those figures, it suggests that around 19,000 of the 50,000 figure will come from keeping nurses we've already got. How can you say that there's going to be 50,000 more if 19,000 already are there?
Well, because the 50,000 more is exactly what it says, which is that in 10 years' time, there will be 50,000 more nurses in our NHS, which obviously is good news for patients and their families in terms of making sure that when they need the NHS, there are people there,
but
obviously,
you're
to look after them.
recounting 19,000 who
already
are in the NHS.
No, what we're saying is, as part of making sure that in 10 years' time, there are 50,000 more nurses, like any employer, and of course the NHS is a huge employer, retaining your highly skilled staff is a key part of your workforce strategy.
But it doesn't mean there are more nurses.
Well, it will mean
there are
more...
31,000 more nurses.
No.
And we're going to hang on to 19,000 nurses.
No, look, the bottom line, the manifesto is crystal clear on this, 50,000 more nurses over the course of the next, by the time we get to 10 years' time, and they will be there through a variety of different routes. Some absolutely will be retained, and that's a key part of any, as I say, workforce strategy. You don't want to lose your highly skilled staff. But there'll be others coming in
sorry. With
via
the greatest
other routes.
respect, Culture Secretary, stopping people leaving is not more nurses, is it?
And there will be 50,000 more. No, 50,000 more nurses. There for a variety of different routes.
19,000 of them are just people you're going to persuade to stay. That's not more nurses.
There'll be 50,000 more nurses
you keep saying that.
in the NHS.
Can you explain the 19,000?
Well, I am explaining it. Piers, I am explaining it.
Treat me as a complete idiot, because at the moment I feel
I'd never do that.
I don't understand how it could be 50,000 more nurses if 19,000 of them are already nurses. Can you explain?
Well, because there'll be 50,000 more.
I know. 19,000
more.
Now,
through a variety of
Morgan to Morgan.
Yeah.
Morgan to Morgan. 19,000 already exist.
So is 50,000 more than
How can they
what?
be categorised as more?
Well, because they will not have left the NHS. We will have kept them in the NHS, plus recruiting through apprenticeships and through degrees and through graduates and everything else.
Just to clarify, again, Morgan to Morgan, you being the smart one, me being the idiot, 19,000 of the 50,000 are already current NHS nurses.
And we would expect on current, if you look at the numbers of nursing staff who leave the NHS, it is far too high. So like any employer, you want to make sure that you are keeping your skilled staff, and that is absolutely part of the strategy.
So why don't you just say that? Why don't you just say, we're going to try and persuade people who may want to leave to stay, but rather than not call them more nurses, because more nurses.
Overall, the numbers overall
see, it all comes down to trust, doesn't it? It comes down to trust. We know that trust in Boris Johnson is very low. We know when he did a debate recently and it came up as a question, everybody laughed at the idea he could be trustworthy. When he leads a manifesto, that the flagship policy in it is there going to be 50,000 more nurses? Yeah. And now you, as the Culture Secretary, a member of that cabinet, a member of the government, admit that 19,000 of them already are NHS nurses. Viewers at home go, well, this is complete nonsense.
But there will be there are other ways that nurses come in to the NHS. There will be overall, and we're very, very clear on this, 50,000 more nurses, if you look in 10 years' time, than there are today.
I know you keep saying that.
And in terms of the trust issue...
I know you keep saying that, but 19,000 of them are existing NHS nurses. Do you see the problem?
Well, but I think it's realistic to say we've got highly skilled staff who we do not want to leave, and that is, if we are able to persuade them and to encourage them to stay, that is good news for nursing care.
Yes, but
in
it's not
this
more
country.
nurses. Nicky Morgan, isn't it a bit
more.
like saying on Good Morning Britain tomorrow morning there will be 3 more presenters, and then tomorrow you just have exactly the same number of presenters because you managed to persuade me, Piers and Charlotte to carry on doing the job tomorrow?
Well, not if there's an additional 3. Not if there's an additional 3, and then you've got your 6, haven't you? But the fact is that 3 of you have been encouraged to come on Tuesday morning and not just on Monday morning.
Yeah, Nicky.
Do we not have really odd maths
Even as you said that sentence, you knew that was probably a wrong avenue to go down, didn't you?
No, I think it's very clear about the 50,000.
We wouldn't have 6 more presenters. We'd have the existing 3 presenters.
Here's my problem.
And 3 extra presenters.
Here's my problem. It's all smoke and mirrors with you guys, isn't it? On police figures, you go, great news. We're going to bring 20,000 police back to the streets. And then someone goes, yeah, but hang on. You're the ones who took 21,000 away from the streets during your 9 years in government. So that's not actually putting more back. What you're doing is replacing the ones you took away. And with the nurses, you say...
not even enough.
Nurses, 50,000 more nurses. Well, actually, 19,000 are already nurses. You're just trying to stop them leaving. Why don't you just be honest?
Because you look at the numbers...
I would respect you much more if you all just sat there and go, look, here's the deal. We should never have taken all those police off the streets, and we are culpable and wrong, and we're going to bring back the ones we took away. And on nurses, there are loads of people wanting to leave the NHS because we have presided over failure in the NHS so much that 19,000 nurses want to bail. But it's the fact you try and pretend it's 50,000 more when 19,000 are already there. The viewers aren't stupid. The voters aren't stupid. They see through this.